are back inside City Hall talking with our reporters roundtable. So late yesterday, we learned Mayor Bloomberg, how nice of him. He wants to throw a welcome back party of sorts for Hillary Clinton. And today, Senator Clinton spoke about that. Let's listen to what she had to say.
He said he'd love to throw a party for me. I never turned down a party. And I've been entertained by the mayor a few times, and it's always a good time. So I'm looking forward to it.
Chris, what's this all about?
Money mostly.
Because this is not a fundraiser, they point out.
Yeah, but ultimately it'll have that effect, I think. It's also about, Bloomberg is an independent guy, and he's going to keep relations as warm as possible in every direction. So reaching out to Hillary at this point as she comes back and becomes senator again, it doesn't hurt the city.
Yeah. Good for the city. He wants her as an ally to give federal aid as much as possible. It's just kind of funny because at one time he really wanted to become president. So it's just funny how things work. One day you're an enemy, possibly. Another day you're throwing someone a party.
This is a rare situation, though, isn't it?
I mean, they seem to have one thing in common. That's failed presidential campaigns. Hillary's, pretty overt.
One got a little further.
Right. Well, the mayor and some of his people seem to be pretty active in trying to put the word out there. But it's always good when the mayor can meet with someone of her stature who's obviously going to be around for a long time, and the mayor who knows what's in his future.
Well, we know at a personal level, the mayor loves to entertain. He's a very gracious guy. He understands that the kind of social cohesion and the friendships that develop by being gracious, by developing those relationships, it pays off in ways you can't necessarily anticipate. So I don't know that he has a specific piece of legislation or a program he wants her to help with, but this is, he's sort of an elder statesman in New York politics now, frankly. He's earned that right.
And Ozzy, is this an attempt for him, another attempt in another way to remain relevant given his kind of lame duck status?
He's found a lot of ways to remain relevant. I mean, having a checkbook is a great way to remind people that you're still around, and throwing parties with a lot of people that show up. I mean, he has fundraisers I think he had one at the townhouse with the mayor of LA. He's written checks to Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, the guy knows how to make friends and keep people happy.
We should note he did not make this kind of offer or throw a party for Rudy Giuliani when he left the presidential race. Anything to read into that, or is this entirely different?
I think Rudy was charging to show up at parties. That's the problem.
Mayor Bloomberg said this week that he indicated he's going to keep us guessing on who he's going to endorse. He said he may not even tell us when he makes his decision, which he hasn't made up his mind yet. Does he just like this guessing game of this cat and mouse game with reporters?
Sure, it makes us stay interested in him. Then we're always sort of looking to see what the next move will be for him. It's very smart. It keeps the fact, just like you were saying, Ozzy, before, the fact that he's term limited and a lame duck. He's still in very much in the national media at all times, and he's really the only one who I've heard mentioned as a possible vice presidential candidate for both people.
There are term limited politicians we all know who we'd have written off by now, and with guns, with some of these urban issues where the mayor just sort of pops up and tries to take a national leadership position, with all of these rumors that he may or may not be encouraging that he might be running for governor. He's very, I think, very deliberately, very specifically trying to keep everyone guessing, keep everyone interested, make sure that he stays relevant up to that last day when all those clocks at City Hall wind down to zero.
Kevin Sheekey is remaining a very busy guy in these
He'd like to be relevant too.
Final days of the mayor's term. Let's move on. End of an era today. Joe Bruno, his final day in office as a senator. He already gave up his position as Senate Majority Leader. Josh, you're our Albany reporter. He did this bus tour up in the Capital Region today to say goodbye.
Right. He went to a number of different places that he essentially gave state money to over the years, I understand. Some high-tech parks around the Albany region. And he's very much not just an institution within the state, but very much within that region. The rest of upstate, as everyone knows, has really seen a major exodus of population, seen its infrastructure crumbling, seen its young people, most importantly, leave. And yet Albany has remained really relevant, not just because of the state capital is there, but also these industries that Joe Bruno has brought in that has allowed somewhat of a flourishing to continue. So, no matter the differences that people have, both Democrat and Republican, people are going to be very sad to see him go. And certainly Dean Skelos has his work cut out for him if he wants to appear as colorful and as relevant as Joe Bruno has been. We don't even know if he's going to be in the same position that Joe Bruno's in come after November's election.
Errol, what's the legacy he leaves?
Well, as a taxpayer who helped fund all of these projects that he was going around taking credit for today, I don't know that I'm all that sad to see him go, frankly. The problems that the state faces, which are critical, you can actually see it when you get off the highway going up to Albany and you see that his district, after all of these years, still boarded up housing projects in downtown Albany. Downtown Albany is still a wreck. We still have a lack of reform. We still have critical issues that not only haven't been dealt with, but were never even debated, thanks to Joe Bruno. So I'm hoping we can turn the corner. He personally, fine. I'm sure he'll be fine with all of the taxpayer money that he's managed to sort of lard on his friends and associates. But I think we've got to do things differently up there. And if people only remember that about him, then I think he may have made a real contribution at the end.
I guess I got to ask Josh if the rumors that Rensselaer County is going to be renamed Joe Bruno County, is that true? No.
It is.
Yeah, right. No, I think there's two legacies. In purely political terms, you can't help but admire the guy's manipulative and survival abilities, his wielding of power over the years. But on the other side, as Errol touches on, they're very much responsible for the dysfunction in Albany. He's got partners involved in that, but when you look at things like higher medical costs in the state and decades of inequitable school money distribution upstate and downstate, that gets back to Joe Bruno too.
Ozzy?
In the political context, Chris is totally right. This guy basically knocked out the steamroller, and he outlived and out-survived Elliot Spitzer, which nobody could have predicted in 2006. And then policy-wise, I mean, his legacy is still not to be, it's not written yet. And there's also a federal investigation that I don't think has concluded yet. And there was boxes of his material that was taken out on one of his last days. So his legacy is far from finished.
I think that it really is going to depend if the Democrats take over the state Senate, and it just seems to be demographics that the writing's on the wall that they're going to eventually do that with whether it's this cycle or the next one. And then his legacy is going to be someone who sold his Republican soul, someone who came in very much as trying to hew to the conservative line that the state had gotten too big, and yet eventually over time made deals with unions and everyone in order to keep his majority, and only to see his majority dwindle to basically nothing now.
All right, Josh, you get the final word on this subject, but I think this topic of Joe Bruno will still be coming up. Ozzy, as you mentioned, the FBI investigation, so probably still lots more to talk about. Have a great weekend, gentlemen, and thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We now have to take a break. I'll be back with the results of tonight's Snap Poll. Stay with us.